Hello, this is a video with me, Veerle, Veerle de Bruyne, and I'm going to do a video about Mars. As I speak, there is an aspect that is approaching Mars, the planet of our drive, you could say, of our actions, of our ego and intention, and the starting of doing something, and the drive and the energy. That planet is going to square up with Neptune, and you will feel this energy maybe already now as I speak, and that will go on for a couple of days. So next week we're going to have this aspect between Mars and Neptune, and that has inspired me also to do this video about Mars and what it has to do with depression. I'm certainly not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. And I don't claim to be. So I'm only going to give you my view of astrology when it comes to depression, but also to take it a bit broader when it comes to our social, how do you call it, environment, and how we, how some things that we can use to open up our minds and to use our Mars in a better way. First of all, depression is can be caused by several things. I think it can be caused by grief, it can be caused because there is a sadness, because you're feeling stuck, because your life just simply, it's not going forwards, everything is slow, but for a lot of time, or in a lot of cases, I think it has to do with suppressed Mars, with energy of Mars that is not in a correct way. In this way, it's a submissive Mars. It's just, someone is like doing this with your Mars, which is terrible, which is aggressive, actually. So I think people who are in depression for different reasons, a lot of people, certainly a lot of people that I see as an astrologer, but also in my own life, when I just observe people around me, when I observe myself as well, I think that Mars has a lot to do, or that depression has a lot to do with Mars that is not used in a correct way. So I know that a lot of other astrology, if you look on the internet and you look for depression, you will find that the most aspect that you could say in the natal chart is prone to depression. You could say that this is Saturn, it's the planet Saturn. I do agree, it is Saturn for a great deal, but I also think it's Pluto, it's both of them. And if you're having two transits, the Saturn and the Pluto, it's a very hard time. Now, it depends on what kind of planets it is triggering you. And I think that although a lot of, and I do agree that it has a lot to do with the moon, which is the mind, which is how you see things, if you have a pair, I can't find my glasses are not here, but I have a red pair of glasses. But if you do wear, figuratively, a black pair of glasses, this is the moon, this is how you see the world. And that, of course, if the moon is connected to Saturn, or is the sun, or if the sun is connected to Saturn, it can make someone a bit more prone to depression than others. But I've seen people with strong moon Saturns who are not depressed, or with strong sun status who are not suppressed. So it's very difficult to say, hey, you are prone to this. But what I've seen in 80% of the times, there is some kind of a problem with Mars. And I mean a Saturn connection or a Pluto connection with Mars. Certainly in a natal chart and also in transits, that can indicate that there is some issue to be learned, or there is some evaluation to be made by the person to have issues with Mars, which is, what is issues in my point of view? A good Mars is being assertive, not being aggressive, not being arrogant, but also not being submissive. It's in the middle, it's being confident and being but with not a lot of drama. And this is for a lot of people And believe me, I understand it fully because I have that kind of aspect myself in my chart, in a connection to Pluto. I've got my Mars and the Sun in a connection to Pluto. So I really understand people who have this challenge with Mars. And to a certain degree, Pluto is different than Saturn. I think Pluto is a bit tougher even than when you have a Saturn-Mars connection, although I find Mars and Saturn and Mars and Pluto one of the most difficult aspects to have, whether you are a man or a woman. I mean, you know, it's for a woman can maybe project that to the man that they're living with, but not always. I mean, they can live it themselves. So first of all, if we talk about depression that is caused by submissive energy, that is caused by a troubled Mars, we can look at your natal chart. At first, are you prone to that? You know, as I said, people who have Mars in a connection to Saturn and Pluto will be more prone to have issues with Mars. It's not necessarily a bad thing. These people are not bad people, or these people are not aggressive. How would I say? No, they're not bad people, but they can have issues. And for one person, it's going very much to the extremes, and for other person, it's not that bad because there are other planets in the chart that can compromise that. For instance, so having, for instance, a lot of water in the horoscope or a lot of earth in the horoscope can temper that. So when you have a Mars connected to Saturn or Pluto, you have a more of an intense drive. Certainly with Pluto. With Saturn, it can be a control of the drive. But I've seen it both with Saturn and Pluto. There are some issues with assertiveness. Either one can go too far, like, and it's also, drive is very natural. And this is really, I'm not going to say a statement that I want to make here, but this is something that drives me very angry, is that nowadays in society, in the environment, you only have to look not far from you. It is very much a culture of talking, and it's very much a culture of don't show the anger too much, you know, with the finger like that. You know, maybe you're a kid at school. If you're bullied, we should talk, we should do this, we should do that. I think this creates even more the suppression of the Mars. And I think society is really not helping us nowadays with this kind of thing, especially for our children, that we learn our children how to assert themselves. And saying to a child, you can't go too aggressive or you can't do anything, you just have to talk, is not, I think, a solution. And I'm certainly not saying to be aggressive is a solution. I say that, you know, simply saying, you know, this is not what I like and I don't like what you do, can be just sufficient. But for some people who have this kind of aspect in their chart, they can have the other problem. They can be too aggressive. They have too much of a drive. They have too much of a sexual drive as well. You know, people with Pluto and Mars, whether you're a woman or a man, the sexual drive is quite often higher than you could say the standard. I haven't got a clue what the standard is, but I'm not going to tell you my standard. That would be a bit too personal, wouldn't it? And that doesn't serve you anyway. But the thing is that we need to see that there are two opposites that are very much alike. You know, take the example of a couple that mostly the man is having issues with Mars and he's being very, very, let's say, abusive, maybe violent or aggressive in words or anything, and the woman is submissive. She just takes it in and takes it in. I'm being very caricatural, or how do you say that, very classic here, but you know, this thing can be the other way around as well, you know, nowadays. But it can be that way, that the woman just is very submissive. And actually, because a woman is so submissive, it just, the man is just going to be more aggressive because of that submissive, non-active, suppressive energy. But if you look at it in a very objective way, you see that those two people are having a problem. And society again will, and I'm certainly not anti-women or anything, but society quite often will point a finger to the man because he's being aggressive, and will say, "Oh, poor you," to the woman, which I think is not okay. It's something that both need to work on. And again, I talk out of experience. It's something that, and it doesn't have to be the one submissive and the other aggressive. It can be two dominant people in a relationship who are very dominant. You know, I remember when I first met my boyfriend, people said, "You know, this is a really dominant person," and he answered to his face, "Yes, but you know, she's dominant as well." So, you know, we what is inside of us we attract, and so it's quite often it's a scenario that both have an issue with it, and they can, if they have compassion for each other and love for each other, they can work on that, and that goes through the years. I certainly learned a lot of him, and I hope he learned a lot of me as well, and we still do. But this is about this Mars. If we are not recognizing that we have quite an intense and how do you say that? An intense and a controlling Mars. If we are not seeing that, we are going to be in trouble. We are going to get depressed, because depression quite often is putting away the Mars, you know. And I gave this example in a relationship, but you know, you can see it everywhere in society, and you can see it in business and corporations, and I've seen so many aggression in corporations. I mean, passive aggression, that you really already need to know very much and be aware very much of what is happening to see that actually you're in a state of submissing your Mars, you could say. When I worked in a big corporation, I can assure you, it was a hard lesson there to learn, because I simply didn't see it, that I was suppressing my Mars until I'm just telling you this story to show you how subliminal, how under the surface this can be. I see a lot of clients now that I really have compassion for and understanding, that they are working in a corporation, in a big corporation where results are very important, and the person is saying, "This is, you know, I'm swimming here like this, I can't take any more, I'm nearly a burnout," which is all about suppressive Mars. "I can't take any more, you know, I can't work any harder than I already do, excuse me." But sometimes people are just like that they are not saying it in a correct way. And then I once saw that at the company that I worked, someone was having trouble with, you know, really on the border of a depression, you could say, and she had to really do something. She had to really work harder, and you know what the superior or the boss said to her, and it was a woman who said to her, "You know what, I know the feeling, here is a pill." And she gave her a pill. Can you imagine how aggressive that is? Of someone is giving you a pill, just what a boundary crossing way that is. This is totally, and this person left the company, and I thought that this was really a very good Mars action. Sometimes Mars is just about saying, no, I'm not doing this anymore. So and I give this example because a lot of businesses, a lot of corporations, they're not interested. And I worked on the human resources development. Can you imagine that? Human resources? How human is that, to give someone a pill? I'm still getting angry when I think of it. But just to give you this example, this is how you make people. And I remember me having conversations about this. You are really forcing these people to to put them in the sickness, how do you call that? You know, people are getting sick of that. I mean, literally being ill, you know, feeling, you know, developing cancer or anything. That's a very extreme, but you know, people are getting sick because they are getting passive aggressive. They don't know how to show it. So, but what I'm trying to say is that it's not all the company. It's also the person who is way too kind. You know, I know all about being too kind of a person as well. And I know that a lot of people are, and especially women. You know, not all women, but a lot of women are just being too kind. And therefore, they are taking and taking in and taking in, and they should have stand up for themselves, you know, and it boils up, and then they get a burnout. And actually, the depression, I always think, like every other disease, like having a cold, it's a flag. It's a flag that you should pay attention to. And I'm not saying that medication is not a good tool for depression. I'm not even saying that. I think it's my humble opinion that it's not a good tool because it mixes up, I think, the brain. So what I'm trying to say here with the Mars and the tendency when there is this Saturn or Pluto reflecting that there is a bit more being prone to aggression or submissive attitude, you could say, which causes depression. I think you can do a lot of things to battle that, and I'm of course I'm not a doctor, but I have an opinion, and I think that you know, on the level of when people are actually in that depressive state, and I talked about that to a friend of mine who works in psychiatry, and he says, Veerle, when you have people who haven't been sleeping for weeks, who haven't been eating for weeks, they need medication. And I believe that, but that's only to the extreme. You know, it's not about people who are having, you know, mood swings or who are, you know, it all has its ranges, of course, but I think we should first investigate all the other things that we can do before we go to the pills. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that pills or medication is totally negative. I don't think so. I think when you go to a very extreme amount of depression, when there is suicidal temptations as well, and again, you know, that's also a powerful act, isn't it? To harm yourself, to suicide yourself. That is also mostly, you know, due to Mars again in the chart. But that's a video for itself, you could say. But what I'm trying to say is that you surely can do a lot against this depression. You can do by, first of all, being active, using the Mars in these assertive ways. And there are tons of ways to do that. There are tons of help out there that you can do. And it might not be wow, with a lot of how do you call that, with a lot of drama involved there, because the things are very simple. And you know, a lot of people know this, like going outside, exercising, and exercising I mean doing physical, you know, being physical. And the one loves to swim and the other loves to do some I always recommend, by the way, with young kids who have a Mars-Saturn aspect in particular, but also Mars-Pluto. I see a lot of kids, I see a lot of moms who come for their kids and they're having a trouble with Mars. And I always recommend doing martial arts. I did it myself a long time ago, and that really, really helped me, but just to feel that you are not constantly, because depression is also about you having no energy. And you need to get out of that state and out of your mind, actually. And that is by doing something that you like. For me, it was martial arts, it was ballet. For another person, it's swimming, whatever. By the way, swimming, I'm going to tell you something about that in a minute, because this is also the Neptune aspect that I want to mention at the end. But so you can do a lot of things to getting out there to, and a lot of things that society is now, and I'm not pointing the finger to society as they're being bad or anything, but it is true that we are now in a very computerized environment. And you're watching this video, and this is also on the internet, so I'm not saying internet is bad or anything. No, it's just we have to know how we deal with it. And so having good food, having nice drinks, I know this sounds very grandma-like, you could say, but these are the things that can help you out of those depressions, or that can help you out of a state, not only severe depression, but also the state of being, I have no power. Mars is about power, and people who are struggling with depression, they feel that they are powerless. You can already nowadays be depressed by looking at the news, what's happening in the world. People who are very empathic are also having troubles with that, because they are, there is the Facebook, and there is the news, and they're watching the news, of course, because they want to be informed, which is a good thing, but then they feel so narrowed and so powerless because what is happening in the world at the moment. If you are a soul, I think with some healthy kind of compassion, you can really suffer from that. But again, then the thing that you need to do is Mars. You need to do some action. Be active in your little circle to do something about it. And again, there's plenty of things, and you can, if you look in your natal chart, look at Jupiter, where Jupiter is situated in your chart, in what element it is. For instance, for me, it's in a water sign, in Scorpio. I've got Venus and Jupiter in Scorpio. So when I feel like troubled, or feeling powerless, or feeling I've got too much on my mind, I take a shower. When I feel that people are putting too much on me, when it's from the outer world, you could say. And I take a bath when it comes from the inner world. When you are, I'm that kind of a person. I can really, I could really, worst case scenarios, I could really do well with that. And when I feel that I'm going that way, I just take a bath, and it's like a bath works like that. When you have inner, trouble, synapses constructing themselves in a very terrible way, take a bath, and you will feel the release and relax. For other people who've got it maybe in a fire sign, it is by being very active, by doing lots of sports, for instance. I find that people who've got Jupiter in Sagittarius, in Leo, what's the other, Aries, these people need to do something that they feel that they're sweating, and that they are really using their muscles. I mean, literally. For people who've got the Jupiter in an earth sign, doing earthly things, making some food, doing some knitting. I mean, doing something that focuses you on creating something and doing something practical. That's for the earth signs, the Taurus, Virgo, and what's the other? Taurus, Virgo, you know. Oh! Taurus, Virgo, my goodness. You fill it in. I have a bit of a blackout now. But then we have Capricorn, of course. How could I forget? Then we have the Sun and ruled sign. And then we have the element of air, which could do well by literally being outside or in the air. But I think also people with a lot of fire, it's a good thing to go outside, actually for everyone. But anyway, these are the things that people if you love to do things, you can look at your Jupiter, what you love to do and what is good for you at the same time, or what is healing. The Jupiter, I find, often shows where your healing capacity is, your inner healing capacity. That's the Jupiter. So when it's in an air sign, it's talking about it to your friends, and I mean face to face, or at least Skype if you can, if you're having friends across the border. But talking about it and you know, intellectually reading about it, reading about the problem that you have. So I know this is not a video about how do I solve a depression, but I just wanted to show that, in my humble opinion, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not, and I certainly don't claim to be that my opinion is the best opinion, you know, absolutely not. But what I do think is that we really have to look at society and take it with a big piece of criticism, because society doesn't help us. It gives us food that is absolutely not well. I mean, even at schools, instead of promoting water when people are thirsty, when kids are thirsty, they're promoting Fanta, Cola, and whatever. There are some schools who are not doing that, so I'm not pointing to every school, but you know what I mean. So we really need to have a critical eye towards society, and we really need to have a critical eye towards our own Mars, and accept it that we're not there yet, and taking little steps. You know, as I said, for someone, I think it's more difficult if you have a personality of submissive than it is with aggressive, because with aggressive it's out there and and then comes probably the guilt feelings. But with submissive, I think it's more, you know, going to the inside, causing diseases actually. What does it has? All this has to do with. But what I want to say is investigate that. Investigate. If you're feeling a bit depressed, if you're having no energy, where does it come from? What is happening in your life that you're not satisfied with, and what can you do? And of course, you can say, if you are someone who is very submissive, you could say, but if I'm going to defend myself, I'm going to have even more trouble. Yes, could be the case, but this is something that you need to go through. That's the healing. You need to go through it. You need to transcend it. You need to, you know, it's also painful, but less painful than suppressing it. Then with the Neptune. So Neptune is squaring up to Mars. It's not an easy aspect, but I think this is the ideal time to work with Mars in a more spiritual way, and in a more creative way, in a more inspiring way, in using Mars in an assertive way with the Neptune. I often see people who have a connection between Mars and Neptune, or dancers, or good at dancing, or doing some martial arts of some kind. So it's a good time to do that. It's a good time to relax, or to try to relax, and it's a good time to dissolve your problems that you have, to heal almost the problems that you have with your Mars, if you do have them. And I think sometimes in our lives we have more issues with it than at other times, because everyone has every now and then a transit of Saturn or Pluto, more for Saturn, you could say every 7 years, to our Mars. So these are possibilities, opportunities. We could say, yes, it's heavy, it's not easy, but the understanding is one thing, but there's the practice, which is Mars. There's the doing. We can talk about astrology, and we can say, oh, it's a beautiful theory and all of that, but that's only, it's an important part of understanding, yes, but then it doesn't mean that you can live this out. You need to practice day by day, and this is where we become stronger, when we become empowered by doing. Thank you very much for watching this little video. Thanks a lot. See you next time. I hope it has helped you in some kind of way. And get in touch if you have any questions. Bye-bye.